All right, guys. Morning, Perth fitness professionals. Dan Williams here from Range of Motion. Guys, I wanted to talk about what you can see on your screen now, what you should be able to see here on your screen, which is my calendar. Now, a lot of the work I do with Range of Motion business mentoring clients is around the calendar, around planning, productivity, balancing lifestyle and work, etc. So today I want to talk about this. Let me just give it a moment for those people who are jumping on live to join us live. We'll just give it another 30 seconds, guys, and then we will delve into this. Please feel free to ask questions, post questions below as you go. I realize most of you will be watching this on delay. So whether you're watching this on delay or watching it live, please post your questions as we go. All right, so let me kick this off, guys, by talking about the importance of having a business that fuels your lifestyle. A lot of the business mentoring clients that I work with, they make the mistake of building a business and then with whatever is left, they have their life, and that's not the way you should be looking at things. You should be designing what you want your perfect life to be, what the perfect day, week, month, year looks like, and then establishing what KPIs, what key performance indicators you need to meet in your business to give you that lifestyle, that quality of life that you're looking for. And basically establishing what your KPIs are, what metrics they are that you're going to be looking at, working out what those metrics read as now, what those numbers are now, what they need to be, and then the whole point of building your business is seeing what you need to do to make up that delta to go from where you are now to where you want to be to give you the life you're looking for. So I want to talk about this in the context of my own calendar. So this is what my calendar looks like, you guys can see here. And I'm just going to leave this on screen and we'll break this down and talk about some of these key elements here as we go. And the impetus for this, what inspired me to put this information out was, again, a lot of the work I do with my business mentoring clients is around productivity, about managing life and calendar, and having a good calendar and a good task or productivity system that supports that is key to a lot of the sort of stress and anxiety that a lot of people are faced with in running a business. The organization is absolutely key. So for some context, I'm a 36-year-old father of one 14-month-old little girl. Married, obviously running my own business. So I've got plenty of stuff that's going on in life. And the last 5 years has very much been about me creating a business that allows me to be a dad first and foremost, a dad, a husband, and then somewhere down the line, a business owner, a coach, a mentor, an educator, etc. as well. So this calendar exists to support that. So if we look at this calendar here, you'll see the most prominent and the most important parts of this calendar are called Charlie. Charlie is our little girl, of course, and these times are when I am with Charlie. It means I'm not on my phone, I'm not working, I don't have any tasks to do during those times. That time is spent with Charlie. Those blocks, so these three big blocks here, were the first thing to go on my calendar. Because with those items on my calendar, I can then fill in the gaps around that. That is my life. I then fill in the gaps around that to give me the income, the business, etc. that supports my life. So make sure that the most important things are the first things that are scheduled. A lot of people will first schedule those things that bring in income in terms of financial income, because there's that whole sort of psychic income of having a good environment to work in, having a sense of purpose, having a sense of being able to make good change in the world. But a lot of people put in the things that are going to generate income, and then with whatever is left, they quickly go home and tuck their kid in before bed, etc. So at the start of this year, Ash, my wife, went back to work, part-time, 3 days a week, but she's in a pretty high-pressure, high-powered role, in a general manager role. So she's fully engrossed in work on those days, and we've been able to create a business where I'm able to spend that time with Charlie. Of course, a bit of support from parents-in-law, and that sort of stuff. So you can see Tuesday afternoon from 3 to 6, I'm with Charlie. Thursday morning, 7 till 2, I'm with Charlie, and Friday all day, I'm with Charlie. No work during those times. So that's the first thing I want to draw your attention to, those most important parts. if we stay looking along the lines of stuff that is for me as opposed to for the business, although of course it's hard to differentiate between those two, you can see the areas in green here. This is my own training. So again, that is put in before any clients are put in, etc., because that is a priority. That stuff is more important for me than the financial income. And again, it's because I've worked on the business for a decade and a half to get me to the point where that's realistic. So you can see Monday afternoon, train with Ash and Charlie. So Ash doesn't work on Monday, so her and Charlie come in for a few hours, just basically to be around happy, healthy people, exercising, etc. So Ash and I train together. Charlie toddles around. As we do that, we often modify one of our training sessions so we are able to both exercise, one works while the other rests, for example. Or some strength-based session where we're not both lifting at the same time. Great for Charlie to see us doing that. Great for Ash and I to train together. You can then see training times Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday I'll talk about in a moment. Actually, I'll talk about Friday now. Friday mornings with Charlie, we go out for brekkie together at a cafe. Then we go for a big walk around the river for an hour, play around, read books, do flashcards, play with Duplo or Lego or whatever in the morning, and then I take her swimming in the afternoon with my dad so she can spend some time with him as well. So I will swim on a Friday afternoon as well while Dad looks after Charlie. And then Saturday morning, I come in early to Range of Motion to train, and then we do have one class a week at Range of Motion on a Saturday morning, like a social thing, so I'll join in on that as well. So you can see my training is built in there. You can see a lot of the time only half an hour available, but I make do with what I have. I'm in my 71st week at the moment without missing a training session. So training 5 times a week, 71 weeks of that, and that includes having a baby and COVID and sickness and injury and all the rest of it. So just staying consistent with that. Doesn't have to be crazy, just needs to be consistent. So now let's move onto my clients. So anything you see in this light blue, for example, Rod on a Tuesday morning, anything in this light blue are my exercise clients. So financially speaking, it's not the highest value use of my time. So this is where I'm working as a personal coach. Most of these clients here, in fact, just about all of them have been clients for half a decade plus, some up to sort of 13, 14, 15 years. So a lot of these are long-term clients. It's very much sort of in the comfort zone for me, not that I'm not challenging myself with growth and stuff, but it's good to be able to keep my hat in the ring with those sort of clients, still sort of working on the front line, trying to lead by example with a lot of our personal coaches and our team here at Range of Motion. The clients you can see here in the dark blue, like Ariza, for example, at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. These are my business mentoring clients. So most of these are over Zoom. Some of them are face-to-face as well. So I'll be seeing these clients either once a week or once a fortnight, basically working on helping them build their business and create a lifestyle effectively that is supported by their business. That's a high value task for me. And for me, I've got a good balance of the business mentoring work and the direct client work. In the lighter purple here, this is nutrition coaching, not something I do a lot of, but that's in there again for variety, which is really important for me. So those pretty much, other than these supervised training, which is basically where I am just here at Range of Motion, walking around, helping people out, answering questions, introducing anyone who doesn't know each other, that sort of stuff. So that's just designated times where I can just be there with not actually anything to do, but it's important to have those times where there's not anything to do there. So speaking of having time where there's not anything to do, the idea of having white space in your week. And like I mentioned, Friday morning, I'll go for a big hour-long walk with Charlie. Same thing happens on a Thursday morning. So on that Thursday and Friday morning, being able to go out, walk for an hour, Charlie is in her pram, we stop and we talk about the trees and why some trees have leaves on them and other trees have had leaves fallen off, and why some trees have smooth bark and some have rough bark and all the rest of it. So we do all that sort of stuff, sort of exploring, stop at playgrounds as we go. But for me, it's time when I'm either listening to audiobooks in addition to the time that I'm spending with Charlie there. Tend not to listen to podcasts during my walks, purely because I save podcasts for in the car when I can follow the podcasts a little better. Audiobooks for me tend to work better on longer walks when they can have more of my attention. So for me, it's some extra exercise there. Time spent in nature. If it's warm enough, I'm always walking barefoot, trying to walk on the grass if I can, because I'm doing it in the morning. If I'm walking in the direction of the sun, so if I'm walking east, I'll make sure I've got my sunnies off, so I'm getting that light exposure and all the good stuff that helps with sleep patterns and mental health, etc. One thing that I'm not doing that I would like to build into that is a little bit more of that white space where it gives your brain the opportunity to daydream and solve problems without actively thinking about those problems. Something that I think is important, and I think it's important to be able to schedule in that white space into your routine. So it's definitely something for me that is not happening at the moment that I would like to incorporate a little bit more, something that I'm working on. So let's move on onto the actual work that I'm doing on my business, in my business, etc. So a lot of the stuff we've spoken about so far is me being a dad, my own exercise, the time spent directly with clients, and of course that stuff is important. But from a business growth point of view, there are limitations to that because it is very much working in the business as opposed to working on the business. And I'd basically define that as you're working in the business if after an hour of that sort of work, your business is worth the same as it was an hour ago. I'd define working on the business as I've spent an hour working and the business is now worth more. If you were to sell that business, it's worth more now than it was an hour ago. That's sort of how I'd define those two terms. So let's first look at these yellow sort of mustardy colored areas. So this is the shallow work in the business. So it's shallow work as opposed to deep work, which of course was the term coined by Cal Newport in his book of the same title, Deep Work. Shallow work is where I'm sort of flirting around between different tasks a little bit more, short tasks that may only take 30 seconds to 10 minutes each. And this is where I'm doing admin type work, following up on emails, replying to messages, replying to contacts, those sort of things that have to be done to keep the business moving in the right direction on an even keel. Not necessarily the things that need to be done to move the business forward, but those things that need to be done to ensure the business is staying with my head above water. So that stuff's important. Monday morning, I cram a lot of that now into Monday morning. There is space there for it on a Monday afternoon, but normally I'm done with that on the Monday morning. I sort of put my head down and do a real solid 2.5 to 3 hours work on that there. It's one of the things that I was doing a lot of work on this on a Thursday morning. When Ash went back to work, I was actually able to move a lot of those tasks onto the Monday morning. So that's pretty much all of my admin type work for the entire week. It's this concept that the amount of time you have available, or the number of tasks that you have to do, the amount of work you have to do will expand to fill the available time for those tasks. So if you have 3 hours to do something, then you will get that work done in 3 hours. If you had 6 hours to do that same thing, it would take you 6 hours to do that. So for me, that's key, really blocking time so I'm forced to do a lot of work in a very short amount of time. That for me is key. You'd be amazed how much you can get done in a short amount of time if that's all the time you have. And again, if you look at my training here, Tuesday morning, I've got half an hour to train. You'd be amazed how much you can actually get done in a short amount of time if you only have a short amount of time. So most of that shallow work is done there on the Monday. There is time for that on the Wednesday. This is Charlie's nap time on a Thursday. But normally I've finished with my shallow work by that point for the week, so I don't have any of that work to do there. Saturday, I've allowed half an hour for it. Again, that is just following up on any emails and stuff that need to be done, so I'm not too reactive to that because obviously I haven't done any of that work at all on a Friday. I haven't replied to any messages on a Friday because Friday I'm being a dad full-time. So that's my shallow work, working in the business. The exciting stuff, though, is where we move on to the deep work stuff. So you'll see I've got two different classes or categories of deep work here. One is in this darker orange color, one is in the red. So let's first talk about this orange stuff. So this is deep work on. So this is we're now working on the business. Working on the business is, as I've mentioned, stuff that's going to move the business forward. That's going to mean that an hour of work on that is going to increase the financial value of that business from an hour previously. So this would be things that are actually moving the needle forward, work that is adding to the value that business can bring to people. This may be marketing work. It's adding to the size of the business. So that's my deep work on, and that might be stuff like creating content, etc. as well. This is a new element that I've brought in. So I want to just talk about this one a bit. This is deep work, growth entrepreneur, 20% time. Now, there are a few concepts in there. So let me explain why this for me has been key. So with a decade plus of trying to build a business to a point where it's systemized and as hands-off as possible, I basically got to the point where there were so many systems in place there that there wasn't room for me to experiment and play and be ambitious. So there are two sort of standard classes of entrepreneur that we can talk about. There's a lifestyle entrepreneur who's trying to build a business to support their lifestyle, full stop. Then there's a growth entrepreneur. And often the growth entrepreneurial phase comes first, where people are working to build that business. Then the lifestyle entrepreneurial phase comes after, where people can sort of then rest on their laurels and enjoy the inverted commas passive income that they've got from their work, if there is such a thing. And what I found is that I got to a point where I'd systemized to the hilt, everything was automated, and I was missing a lot of the challenge. And of course, a lot of the triggers to get into a flow state. Have a look at the work by Stephen Kotler if you're interested in this. But a lot of the triggers that lead to a flow state come from that period of struggle or of doing things that are slightly beyond your current capabilities, about 4% beyond what you're comfortable with. So I realized that I had systemized stuff so much that I wasn't going into that flow state because there wasn't that challenge there for me. So this is definitely deep work, again, as coined by Cal Newport. And this is very much growth entrepreneurial stuff that is, again, growing the business, challenging myself and playing with new ideas. So I think of this as my playtime. So at any one time, I'll identify something that's a current project I'm working on. So there's something I'm working on at the moment, which I won't share with you guys yet, but information will be out soon. It does relate to Perth fitness professionals. A project I'm working on at the moment, and I know I've got 2 hours a week to work on that time, on that project. So again, it really forces me to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. And I look forward to that because that's my playtime. This is based on a concept. Let's talk about this 20% time. It's based on a concept that was initially launched by Google. It's not something that they do anymore, and it worked with sort of mixed results. But basically what they said to their employees was 20% of the time that you're working for Google, and this is paid time, so these employees are being paid by Google. They said 20% of the time you can work on your own project under the Google banner, under that umbrella of Google. So you can spend that 20% of time working on whatever you like. Of course, it's still owned by Google. And from that, things like Gmail came out, which was just a guy working on, hey, how about if we created an email platform? And it becomes one of the key sort of pillars of the Google ecosystem. So a lot of these things for Google, these sort of moonshot ideas came from this 20% time. So for me, that's what this is. A chance for me to play, for me to be challenged. And the key here was that it's a chance for me to balance contentment and ambition. And for me, that was a key phrase and a key realization is a lot of what I was doing was all about, oh, I'm trying to build towards contentment. I'm happy with where I am. But you have too much contentment and it pushes out that ambition. And I needed that space for ambition in my life. And this 2 hours a week is my time to really be ambitious and play and experiment and get into that flow state and really build and grow stuff. You can see I've also got another darker red section over here. So this is my content creation. I don't create as much content as I used to. So what I'm doing now is just content creation once a week. once a month, in terms of long-term content creation. And that's basically where I'll write a blog. I will convert that blog into both a podcast episode. Our podcast is Romcast, which you can find wherever you listen to podcasts, and also a decently high-quality video for our YouTube channel, which is then leveraged through Instagram and Facebook as well. So I'm doing that once a month now, but it's a higher quality piece of content once a month. Just so happens that next Saturday is the work that I'm doing that. And then you can see some other things like our staff PD, a workshop that I run here just for 20 minutes, which is a value add for some of our clients. These are unpaid things. So these grey sections are unpaid. So I do all the initial client meetings when new clients come in. Those would also be listed in the grey. So guys, that's about it. That's how my calendar works. I use a task management system called Todoist, and Todoist is basically, I can show you quickly here. I've done most of my tasks for today, and again, because I'm doing my 20% time today, my growth entrepreneur work, there's not a lot of stuff here. For example, I woke up yesterday and I had about 85 items on my to-do list, and that's because so much of it was focused around the admin type stuff. So what you'll see is I've got these different categories down here, these different labels, and you can see how these labels, content creation, corresponds with the content creation block here. So you can see that when the tasks come up that I have scheduled on my to-do list, here they come up, they're all color coded, so that corresponds to my calendar. By doing this, guys, it looks a bit hectic, my calendar, but honestly, I have so much free time, I have so much spare time, so much downtime. There is a lot of white space in this as well. A discipline equals freedom, of course, as is very popular at the moment. And I truly believe that by being really disciplined with what you do, with your blocks of work, by your use of time, you'll suddenly realize that you do actually have a huge amount of time. For me, being busy is the absolute worst thing. There was a period a couple of weeks ago where I was busy, and it was out of control, and it's not the headspace that I wanted to be in. I knew that something needed to change. So it will happen, and it was just a week where I happened to have given myself a lot of work to do, so that's fine. But you shouldn't be in a perpetually busy state. That's not what you're looking for at all. All right, guys, I hope this has been of some use. If you could just take one thing away from this, that would justify me putting this little webinar on. Again, hope this has been of some use. Hope you can take some stuff that is going to make you a little bit more productive. It's going to make you a little happier, improve your mental health, get your calendar, your organization, your productivity a little more organized. Any of these sections here on the calendar, I could speak for an hour on quite comfortably. So if you are interested in any little bits of this, how any individual parts of this work, please do let me know in comments below. You can find out more about what Range of Motion does at rangeofmotion.net.au. Or if I can help you out, hit me up via email, which is dan@rangeofmotion.net.au, or through social media. Thanks, guys. Hit me up with any questions, and I will see